Welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. This is not my usual vlog. It is not the camera that I normally use. It is not the technique I normally use, or even the spot that I normally do it in. Trying new things. And as always with new things, there's going to be a period of adjustment. So, a little wild today. Few minutes on exactly what I'm using here and how I'm hoping it'll work out, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing over here. I am using a GoPro Hero to film with. The GoPro Hero is somewhat unforgiving when it comes to my shape, as it has a bit of a fisheye to it. Since it's really designed to be worn like on someone's head or chest and catch a panoramic view of what they're doing, it's not ideal for doing vlogs. It's going to come in handy for some other things I'm doing. It'll catch the whole room here if I have a group in here gaming, and I would like to watch a few of those and get some of the games that I do here recorded. And a couple of other projects I have in mind. But that means getting over the learning curve, and that includes doing a couple of vlogs like this, maybe more than a couple. We'll see how it turns out. The other difficulty with the GoPro Hero is that its microphone, while it has one, is entirely insufficient. So, even though I'm no longer filming using my phone today, I am using the studio quality microphone in my phone to capture my sound. That means I'm going to need to synchronize my video to my audio, which is something I don't generally have to worry about. So if I seem a little out of sync or come across like a bad Godzilla movie, that is exactly what is happening. I'll try and do a good job of that because I hate it when the audio doesn't sync. All of this means a little extra time in editing and using Premiere, and that's fine because if I'm going to be throwing special effects and things into my videos later on, that means the practice. It's always about the practice and doing a little bit every week so that I get a little bit better. There, that's the technical side of what I'm doing here. The Shattered Earth was slotted to come out for the Victory System at the end of last month. We are now halfway through this month, and I hope, halfway through the book. My design process has a lot of different steps and stages. But the stage that I'm in now is one that I actually learned role-playing as a player. It's where you take everything that you can possibly do and you blow up this plan until it is massive and covers everything. And you've got this real grip on all of the endless potentials and possibilities that you can really do. And then you stop for a second and go, now, what was I doing again? If you've played a role-playing game with a very creative group, you have seen this happen. This was really notable in a couple of games I've played here, run by my friend Victor Gibson, friend and co-author, where we'd have characters with tremendous powers, especially playing mage. Played a technocracy game where the four characters, alls who had the first name of John, or as we called ourselves, the four Johns of the Apocalypse. And we had these reality-bending powers, and we'd come up with these huge, huge plans. Oh, we need to go after this guy? Well, we could do this. Oh, but I could do this. Then I could do this. And then we can do this. And then we can get together and do this. But what if we do this? And then, oh my God, this. Does that actually get the guy? though. What were we trying to do again? When you're writing a role-playing product, especially a big setting book, because this is the fantasy world. This is the default fantasy world for the Victory system, and it is conceptually huge. There's a huge amount of different areas and possible uh, environments for things to happen in, and a huge variety of characters and monsters and opposition and plot complications. It's massive. Like a good game setting should be. There should always be something to do. There should be things to do that the people who buy the book have never thought of. You should buy a setting book for a role playing game, something that has your background and everything that your characters are going to be engaging in. And the game master reading through this book should say a number of times, "Oh my God, I never thought of that. That would be awesome." So I've taken kind of an unusual approach to it. Because the world is so expansive and has so many unique areas to it, a exhaustive setting book was A, not going to be happen, and B, not something that I would want. If I've put all of the information into the setting book, then what am I going to do for supplements? So, rather than try and list a huge number of different cities in great detail with all their people, I'm building the systems for randomly generating places, people, things to do. It's going to have detailed maps and examples of a continent, a city, a town, a village, and the people that you're going to meet with and deal with in these places, and the situations and opposition and monsters and animals you're going to find around them. But more than half the book is the system for randomly generating the situations and places that the player characters are going to find. It's like a procedurally generated video game where every time you play the game, it creates new areas for you to go into and explore and new opposition for you to deal with. It's not the same twice, ever. At the same time, I didn't want to write a book that was nothing but charts. You could write a 1,000-page book and fill it with charts, but no matter how good the charts, that's very wearing on the customer. That's not something that people want to slog through. Oh, I'm going to spend 2 days rolling up something on these charts, and then you can roll on charts to see what's going to happen about it, and it ceases to be an exercise in using your imagination and starts to be bookkeeping and accounting. That's not fun. So there's a balance that I need to strike between randomly generating material and having existing material in the book that is interesting, engaging, and will lead people into wanting to roll on the charts to explore more. That, and like Vic pointed out yesterday when we were going over the problems I've been having, the charts cannot sit alone in a big pile of charts. There needs to be a narrative to them. They need to walk you through the process of how you're creating a new government and a new place with climates and cities in this random fashion. It all has to be part of a narrative because we are creating stories here and the elements we're telling stories in. And then there's how much information is too much. When have you gone past the point where you need this to be a random thing, or you just assume that the game master and the players are going to understand that something is there? And I guess it comes down to I don't want a game master to pick up this book and flip through it and start using it and say, um, this book does not have what I need in order to run the kind of fantasy game that I want to run. Because I believe in kitchen sink worlds. I believe in worlds that have everything in them, up to and including the kitchen sink. You know, fantasy game that you want to run low fantasy with a small amount of magic, if any, or high fantasy or epic fantasy. You want to throw elements of steampunk into your fantasy or not. Those are all important choices for the game master, and if the game master doesn't want to field those choices on their own, the game master would like to explore a little bit themselves and be surprised by the world they are going to be putting people into, well, that's a good thing for charts to have. Nor do I think it's necessary to require the charts. You don't have to randomly roll this. It also presents a list of menu items. Well, I would like it to have this feature, and this should be going on there, and there should be these and those present. So, a book that allows you to procedurally, randomly generate a new land to explore with a unique that allows you to not only procedurally generate a whole new land to explore or new government to interact with or individual people within that culture, but that has all of the components listed in it for what you might want to have there in your game. The cosmology of the Shattered Earth is unique. I'm very pleased with how it has taken shape and all the play tests and all the rewrites and all the things we've done, and I think I've got it nailed down to something that's both engaging and clearly a part of how the campaign flows. All this being said, there's a little bit of a cheat involved in writing this book, in that in writing the procedural generation section, in writing the random charts, and using that as a foundation for what the feel of an area or a culture or a person, an NPC is, that it makes it much easier to write the rest of the book and to write future supplements, because if my brain empties out, as it does, then I can just roll dice. And if I don't like the result, I can come up with something close to it. I'll always have a starting off point for creating something fresh. And while that's a bit of a cheat, cheating is the term that the loser has for strategy. I want to give people the ability to make their own game, their own area within this game, to put their foot down on a piece of intellectual property and walk around in it, to build a mountain in a town, put up some flags, kick the tires, and engage themselves. I want to go to the Facebook page for the Shattered Earth once I create it and see people's stories, and oh, we have this country that they do this, and we had to go in and break this guy out, but this is what the law system looked like, and so we had to fight against this. I want to see people building their own empires. And of course, tearing them down. And I've got 2 weeks and a day to finish her up. That's laying in the rest of the random charts, doing the page layout to make them all fit, adding the graphics and images for not only helping describe what's going on, but to aid in navigation through the book. That means drawing some maps longhand on the Wacom and populating towns and villages and hamlets and cities with shops and people and castles and things to do. And my brain's getting empty. You have to fill your brain every so often. You absolutely have to. You got to give your brain a little bit of a break every so often, and you got to take time to make things line up the way they're supposed to. Your brain. You got to feed it with new material and new information. And then let it digest so you can produce something new and unique that flows. At this point, I'm using a lot of caffeine. This is an energy drink. It is a large energy drink. When I am done with this, I am going to drink a large amount of water so that my system can continue to flush itself out. I think that's helping a little bit. And then I am going to have a big, icy, cold glass of Death Wish coffee, perhaps mixed with a few shots of Death Wish's Odin Force Valhalla Java, another blend of coffee that I highly recommend. It doesn't have the caffeine punch that the straight Death Wish does, but it has this mellow, creative, contemplative power behind it that not only is it incredibly flavorful and really smooth as coffees go, but it has this esoteric quality that moves you along. I may be thinking about coffee too much. Not that I'm seriously considering it in any way, shape, or form, but I understand why creative people have gone in so much for cocaine historically. Because you run out of energy in your head, and you get the sense that if you just had a little more power, if you had a little more gas, if you could put your foot down on the accelerator a little bit harder, or if you had just a little something extra, a little bump, a little go. I suffer from a lifetime of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which means that my brain generally doesn't stay on track any length of time on its own. And I've learned to timeshare a little bit. I'll set up 15 tasks in front of me and give each one of them a bit of time so I don't have to focus on one of them too much. But then I get a book like this in front of me, and it's got to come out. And it's got to be a focused, driven effort. I was never medicated specifically for my ADHD back in the 70s and 80s, especially in the Midwest when I was in elementary school, parochial school. The concept of medicating someone for ADHD was fairly new and not widespread, and I'd lived with it for so long. Why should I need anything more than special training? The energy drinks and the caffeine are me self-medicating to get past the problem. I've been able to focus and drive myself on projects in the past, but the game has been the first the hot chicks and now the victory system has been a sustained creative effort for the past 8 years. And I figure I can push myself another couple, but I need chemicals to do it. Fortunately, caffeine has some positive health benefits. For people with some of my conditions, it's actually a really beneficial thing if you're used to having it in your system. It's a vasodilator, it keeps your metabolism up. Most diet pills or diet supplements that boost your metabolism are mostly using caffeine, so it's helping me keep a higher metabolism, and it's working as an appetite suppressant. Even though around about 3 o'clock every day I really need a cookie. With a good supply of chemicals in my system, I can push myself for 4 to 5 sustained hours of writing in a day. I can do longer stretches if I'm working on art, because especially doing the digital art, a lot of that time is being taken up by the computer rendering things. I have also started taking on commissions for doing work, uh, currently for my Patreons, but I'm open to that because there's never enough money. Writing role-playing games does not, unfortunately, pay the bills. Um, and that gives me another task to go to. However, when things are in crunch time like they are now, there's a certain amount of extra stress involved. Doing the vlog, especially with new equipment, well, it helps me get some of the stuff off my chest, explain myself, and when I talk things through and I can hear them, sometimes I find my way through a little bit better. It helps me focus on things differently, find solutions, weave a path through the stress and the difficulty, and come up with some new ways to get things done. You never have quite enough self-examination or examination of your process. Because if you can refine your process, you can get the work done easier. And getting the work done easier, I'm all about getting the work done easier. Unfortunately, right now, I just got to write. That being said, it is time for me to get back to it. So, until next time, I am Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I will talk to you next time on the next Matters of Decorum.